from the NFL Network. NFL Game Day Live, 1 Eastern Time, every single Sunday. Eric Davis and the crew will keep you up to date with what's going on in the National Football League. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you.
In your days of covering the 49ers in the booth as a radio analyst, you were there when the lights and the power went down in New Orleans, correct?
Twice. I was there in Candlestick when they went down also. It was when Transformers blew, and we had a game there where everything went down. But the Super Bowl, yeah, that's the big one that everyone remembers.
Where you're on the air and suddenly you're not on.
You're on the air and you're not on the air, but you don't know that you're not on the air, so you just keep talking.
So you did that. You and Ted Robinson, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You just keep talking because you don't know if someone can hear you or not. So you just keep talking about what's going on, and you talk about fat mouthing.
Yeah.
In New Orleans, I mean, it was seriously for close to an hour. I mean, we're just sitting there just talking. You know.
And as it turned out, nobody was hearing you, correct? Did you know that?
As far as we know, no one was hearing us. Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder what would the NFL do if the game could still go on, but the power for the broadcast is out, thus rendering instant replay useless. You know,
That's
baseball.
an interesting call.
I wonder what the NFL would do in that instance. Last night, baseball's like, you know what? The first guy to ever hit, here's a great name right here, I'll repeat it right now. First guy to ever hit an inside the park home run as a leadoff hitter in the World Series, Patsy Dougherty of the 1903 Boston Red Sox. When you can say things like that, you know, they didn't have instant replay on that World Series, so let's go ahead and play baseball.
That's true.
I wonder what the NFL would go ahead and do. What do you think? Would they keep the game going or stop
regular
until
season game or a championship game?
If
Super
it's
Bowl.
the Super Bowl?
Super Bowl, I think they stop. I think they shut it down. I do. I believe Super Bowl is shut down until, just like it did, you know, when we were there. Everything shut down until every light was back on.
Well, that's because you couldn't play, though. It's because you couldn't play.
But once the lights came back on, there was still a period in which everyone was trying to figure out what to do. I don't think, and I think that was all about finding out which plug had been pulled from what truck.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, Ray Lewis said somebody from the 49ers pulled that plug out of the wall, right? Isn't that what Ray said? A year later?
I think he insinuated.
He didn't exactly come out and say it like it was that guy from Airplane who pulled the plug out of the wall and all the lights on the runway went out and Leon's getting larger.
But I don't know. I don't think they would play it. I really don't. I think they would shut it down.
Because could you imagine if they just decide, let's just keep playing. Folks at home might not be able to see it, but let's just keep playing the Super Bowl.
No.
And if a toe's out of bounds for a touchdown, there just won't be replay.
Rich,
you know what I mean?
Let's just say Budweiser say we want our money back because no one was watching.
I'm interested
that's the issue. I think
the NFL would have done.
Yeah, I mean, you know how much a commercial costs.
That's right.
I think they would shut it down.
Just shut it down.
They would shut it down until they could, air the commercials.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, the game will be cross-streamed on Yahoo.
Yeah,
so
sure, it could be.
will...
Or just, it could have been Yahoo exclamation point.
Now, once that gets started, I don't think the game would shut down.
Yeah, because you could just go to the internet
and
check it out. Man, it's a different world we live in. I've got Eric Davis here on the Rich Eisen Show. So, what do you make of Greg Hardy? What do you make of Greg Hardy and what happened with the Cowboys?
Greg Hardy, that's Greg Hardy, the same guy he's always been. People all the time talk about, these guys need veterans to bring them down. Well, he is a veteran. That's who he is. But this right here epitomizes what I always say, that supreme talent supersedes character. If you are young and talented, you get to play. That's the league. It's ugly. People don't want to say it. They don't want to talk about it, but it's the truth. You tolerate whatever a guy brings into the locker room if he is extremely talented. And it happens on every team. And I don't care who you are and what your rules are, because you can sit here and say, well, Belichick wouldn't do it. Gronk can be a meathead from time to time, and people know that. But guess what? He is the biggest red zone threat the league sees. So because of that, guess what? You have a different set of rules.
No, but there's something different between a guy, kicking D's nuts of his friend on a stage in Vegas. Okay,
agreed.
And
but the only reason I say Gronk, because Gronk doesn't get in trouble. But the only reason I'm saying that is because everyone assumes that you have to be buttoned up and tight to do things for Belichick, and
No,
that's not true.
But he comes from a spot where Lawrence Taylor got a certain different set of rules
Yes,
applied to him than
and
everyone
there
else.
it is, and that's what I was gonna say.
He's had a front row seat to that.
Every coach has different rules
But
based on talent.
We're hearing from the Cowboys, fiery leadership, and players love him, and that's all he was doing. Wrong place, wrong time. Do you think that is truly the case within that locker room right now, Eric Davis?
Well, as long as you're not one of the guys that the fire is coming at, that you're not feeling the heat. Really, if you're feeling the heat, then now I have a problem. If it's always leadership and it's always, the fire and brimstone, if it's not directed towards you, then it's not personal. When it's coming at you, it's personal. And I have a problem with you trying to embarrass me, because remember, you're talking about an NFL team. On that sideline, game day, you got 45, 43 active, I believe, alpha males.
Mm-hmm.
No, none of those guys want to back down. None of those guys are wired to back down. So any guy that's coming at, he's not happy about it. So it's a question of how you handle it, because it'll continue unless you stop it. Greg Hardy will yell at you all the time if you allow him to. If you don't, he won't.
The fact that Jason Garrett didn't say a word on the sideline as it was happening in real time, people are pointing to as a problem. Certainly in Dallas, Rick Gosselin wrote this piece in the Dallas Morning News saying that he needs to step up and say something like that. What do you say?
I say, was the coach privy to everything that was going on? Was he watching it?
He was standing right there as Hardy was being pulled out of that special teams huddle.
I mean, well, shame on him. Shame on Garrett. Because you can, again, people treat you in the manner in which you present yourself. So Garrett can say, wrong place, wrong time. And that right there, he's saying that it's okay. I allowed you to do it in that moment at that time. So that's on Garrett right there, because that could have been stopped. He was not going to go crazy on his head coach.
So I guess just to boil it down before we take our first break with you, is it possible this thing is boxed up, put away, and it's not a problem? Is it entirely possible?
Yes.
That's okay.
Yes. I mean, it's easy. You move on, because guys, hey, don't do that again. If you do that, it's real simple. You just tell the guy, if you do that again, you see that big contract that could possibly be out there, you won't get it here. If you want to go somewhere else and try and get it, you can get it. But that's just not tolerated. And if you do that and you stick to it, it won't happen.
Eric Davis here on The Rich Eisen Show. Back in a minute. We'll set you up for Week 8, starting with that Thursday night game. Miami Dolphins with the interim head coach. The most tenured interim head coach of Miami football right now. There's a new interim head coach there on the collegiate level. We'll talk about that, and also our fantasy tips for you and our No Defense Game of the Week in our Friends of Rich Pick3DraftOps.com Celebrity League. That's next in just 1 minute here on The Rich Eisen Show. Dez Bryant returned to practice today for the Dallas Cowboys. We'll keep an eye on that. He was limited, however, in his practice. You've got the Cowboys and the Seahawks. That's a pretty big game. 3-4 Seattle at 2-4 Dallas. That's a monster game.
That's a big game.
Who do you think wins it? Who do you think takes it?
Seattle. The Dallas Cowboys don't get better until they get Tony Romo back, until they get Dez Bryant back.
Man, they can't tread water like Pittsburgh did.
Pittsburgh treaded water. Well, Pittsburgh has a better team. Everyone got so enamored about what that offensive line did last year that they lost sight of the fact that with Dez, with Romo, you scored a lot of touchdowns, but you didn't win a lot of games. You finally found a running game and someone that worked and fit within that system, and then you decided to let that go. I thought that was a bad move then, and it's turning out to be.
Well, Darren McFadden's going to be the starting running back right now. He looked Murray-like, didn't he? On Sunday?
And Darren McFadden can always do that when he gives you 18 or 20 touches. If you go back and you check his numbers, 18, 20 touches, he's going to give you 100 yards of offense. The problem is that happens like 4 or 5 times a year. Can't build around it.
How real are the Raiders? Jets against the Raiders. We had Derek Carr on yesterday. Love chatting with him.
Oh, Derek Carr, I like. Derek Carr is still showing me the same things he showed me at Fresno. When you blitz him, he's not the same quarterback. He's going to get blitzed.
Yeah, Todd Bowles is going to bring it. Okay.
So that's the issue there. I like the Raiders a lot. And they are growing. Carr is growing as a player. They're growing as a team. Everything that they want to get. I like what Reggie McKenzie, the GM, is doing there. And I mean, he learned his ball at Green Bay. Yep. And they're building and producing players from their system. I think it's going to be a difficult deal for that offense versus the Jets.
What about Green Bay now and Denver Sunday night? Who wins this one? Both coming off of bye weeks too. I mean, they're undefeated and rested. This is going to be a great one on NBC Sunday night. What do you think happens?
I like Green Bay in this one. Love Denver's defense. They are for real. But Green Bay, they figured out how to play defense also. Mm-hmm. They rush the passer like crazy. They are going to get to Peyton Manning. They have playmakers in their secondary that I believe in. And Dom Capers is smart enough at the coordinator position to know he's going to make Peyton throw the ball over the top of their heads. Mm. They're going to, and they have guys that are fairly sound tackling. They're tackling better, getting to the quarterback. That's going to issue. And I think the thing that will win the game for them is I believe that they'll be able to run the ball. Both of these defenses are going to get after the quarterback, but I think they'll be able to run the ball better.
Eric Davis joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. NFL Network, CBS kick it off tomorrow night, and the fact. This is the proof to me of how well things have been going for Dan Campbell, is that this Miami at New England game is being presented as his first real test, right? As if taking over a team as an interim head coach when you're the tight ends coach one day and now the guy in charge the next, with a defense that's wondering if they have the right defensive coordinator and an offense wondering what their identity is on offense, as if that's not the hugest test for any coach possible. Now they've won 2 in a row, and they spanked Houston. I mean, spanked. They took their foot off the gas pedal in the second half of that game. Do they have a shot in New England? Short week, do you think?
Do they have a shot? I mean, they've beaten this team 3 out of the last, I think 3 out of the last 4 times they've played them. And that was with Philbin. So they have a shot. I mean, you have the roster. Obviously, you've built your roster to try and compete with this team. You have a shot of winning the game.
And Sue coming up on that green offensive line might be the...
Well, this is the thing. The thing, Rich, is do I think they're going to win the game? No. And do I think this is the test? I agree with everything you just said. Just taking over. And
it's a huge test
a locker room
itself.
that was probably ready to quit on you, doing all of those things and getting your voice out there and saying this is the direction we're going to go in and getting these men that were being beaten down to follow you. That's big. But now you lose this game, especially if you lose big. If you lose this game, now are the guys going to rally the following week and listen to you, or will they start to believe, well, we beat Tennessee and Houston?
Yeah.
So that's the issue. That's where he is right now. So this right here really is his test, because it's all great until the plan doesn't work. The most important part of coaching is not telling me the game plan. It's telling me what to do when the game plan doesn't work.
Yet when he took over at 1-3, if I said that they'd be 3-3 going into this game in New England, that would have been just a monumental leap of faith to begin with, just from the get-go, and that they are here.
He's done a great job.
And it's 2 of the last 3, right? Law, you have those numbers?
2 of the last 3?
Yeah, they won 2 out of the last 3, but the Patriots
3.
have won 8 of the last 10.
There you go.
Got it.
There you go.
But, yeah, I knew it was something like that, 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4.
Let's talk about our no-defense game of the week. Shall we do that?
Let's do it.
As you saw when you were sitting in our green room, Chris Law won week number 7.
Yeah.
Luck, T.Y. Hilton, Doug Martin was his pick 3 championship lineup for week 7. And it wasn't looking very good mid-third quarter. It looked like he was absolutely going to spit the bit, and then all sorts of garbage points.
Not a ball game left.
Yep. So that's what happened. So now let's take a look where we use the schedule, and we look for games that will be, we think, very high scoring, in which there will be no defense, and we target one of our pick 3 players and somebody that maybe you should use in fantasy this week.
I'm not pleased with what we did on defense.
Walk the ball.
DraftOps.com's No Defense Games of the Week.
All right, Chris Law, you have the T-Box. You have the honors, not because you won last week. It just was your turn randomly. So congratulations again. You got $1,000 for Thon, right?
Yep, Penn State Dance Marathon.
Well done, sir.
We're going to try and double down and win another 1,000 for them. We're going to Heinz Field where the 3 rivers converge this week. I'm going Bengals and Steelers. Big Ben coming back.
You think there's no defense in this game?
Here's why there's no defense in this game. A lot of key players questionable for the Steelers. You got cornerback William Gay with a shoulder, has not practiced. Will Allen, safety, his ankle has not practiced. DN Stephen Tuitt, knee probably out. And linebacker Terrence Garvin all out for the Steelers. What's the Red Rifle done lately? Just 14 touchdowns, 2 interceptions on the season. Eifert with 6 touchdowns, A.J. Green with 3. Give me the Red Rifle. He's had 3 games with 3 touchdowns or more. I love Andy Dalton in this game.
Okay. So you say the Bengals don't play defense either? Help me out with this one, Eric Davis. Did he just come up with some sort of way to get his way to pick Andy Dalton for fantasy this week? Did that just happen?
I think that's what he just did. He just found a way to get Andy Dalton.
Because the Bengals are going to play defense, right?
The Bengals are going to play defense, yes, and I think Pittsburgh is going to play defense in this game.
Pittsburgh 24th in total defense and 27th in passing.
That's because they don't get to play Andy Dalton every week. They play well versus them. They always do.
No, I'm spitballing here because I have a few minutes here on the Rich Eisen show, and my name's on the mug.
There you go.
Should we do what we do on game day morning for bold predictions? Is anoint Eric Davis the commissioner of this, like we do Marshall Faulk for the bold predictions.
Not bold enough.
That we go ahead and say something, and if he, our expert defender with a Super Bowl ring, says sorry, we then have to go back to the drawing board. Do you want, do we as a trio, as a command center and host,
Be careful what you wish for.
come together and collectively bargain, the three of us, to hand a power to him that not even Richard Berman will be allowed to overturn.
Oh, we'll see.
No. We
I'm
give him ultimate power to reject on appeal. Do we want to do this? I say yes.
I don't want to say Tom Brady's name every week. I'm going out on a limb. I'm using.
Out on a limb.
You're going out on a limb?
How long is that limb? Like an inch? 2 inches?
The Bengals are
It's a
6-0.
short limb.
You went on a tree trunk.
And Andy Dalton has a 7-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio.
Yeah, but you also have to say that the Bengals aren't going to play defense in this
Right.
game for this
Hold on.
game to be allowable to choose one person from it.
Think about it. I'll give you a real no defense
Okay.
game.
In the meantime,
Okay.
let's just think about this. I say we do empower Eric Davis.
I'm a third of the way there. I am one.
All we need
third
is
of the
one
way
more,
there.
you guys. Come on.
I like it.
But if I have to come
Tufo
off
does
my
not have a
pick
vote.
now, I'm going to be upset.
I like it.
Brockman?
To be instituted next week.
Not this week?
Let's
Well,
talk
Law's
about.
already made his pick.
So what?
It's in
Go
the
ahead.
It's in the system.
Chris Brockman,
Rich.
it's in the system.
Okay.
Hey, you got my number. You can text me.
Right, sure. There's going to be absolutely zero defense played in my game. San Diego at Baltimore. Two of the bottom third teams in total defense, 26th and 27th in scoring defense. We all know the Chargers, number one in total offense, number one in passing. They don't stop the run on D, 31st against the run. So I'm taking Justin Forsett.
Now that
Ravens
sounds
running
like a
back
no
this week.
defense game of the week.
That right there is a winner. You're absolutely right.
once you
That's
guys
a
win
no defense game.
$1,000, then
That
we can implement
is
the rule.
playing the game the way you guys
Yes,
meant it to
where
be
we
played.
choose a
Yes.
game in which we think points will be aplenty.
Yes.
Defense will be a dearth. If I got whatever, a
This-
dearth of
this is
defense,
a
which,
dearth
by the way,
of
sounds like a
defense.
great fantasy team.
It actually.
And some
sounds-
fantasy numbers for you. Chargers have given up the second most fantasy points to
Look at
running
you.
backs this year. And Justin Forsett, 10-plus fantasy points each of the last
You
four
just
games.
went all Fabiano on us right there. That's what he sounded like right there.
Well, that's spooky.
All right, so I will go for my no defense game. Same game. Same game. Same game. All the stats that you just said, I wholeheartedly endorse. And I'm going Steve Smith Sr. This is his last game potentially as a Baltimore Raven. I understand that I'm pounding a drum that he's basically saying don't pound anymore. That the trade deadline means nothing to me. That this is a guy who has the heart of a champion and rates NFL referees on Yelp. Love everything about him.
stars.
That was outstanding.
Love all of
I
Steve
love
Smith
Smitty.
Sr., top to bottom, what beats inside, and everything he puts out on the field. I think he's going to have a huge game for the 1-6 Ravens, who are due for a win, the first 1-6 team in NFL history to have a chance to win or tie a game in the last 2 minutes, each and every one of their 7 games. Any team that's ever done that before hasn't started 1-6. They are due. So I'm going Steve Smith Sr. I say this man is the commissioner of no defense, in the same that Marshall Faulk on game day morning is the commissioner of bold predictions. I say yes, Brockman, Law. Neither of you say yes to this?
I'll say yes.
Thank you.
No.
Now, do we do this right now?
Yeah, just because it's Law.
Yeah. No. We do this absolutely.
Hold on a second. If this was me, you would vote against me.
I'm going with the kid from Katie. I'm the one in this league that has taken Sam Bradford twice.
because you're an idiot.
Who brought home $1,000 for their charity.
Because you, sir, are asinine. Just use the word.
You're in 10th place.
Use the word. You're now the commissioner. It is your ruling. If you say that we can't do this retroactively for Chris Law this week, I will respect your ruling. You are now in charge, sir. Eric Davis, make your ruling.
Retroactively would be the correct thing to do
Okay.
in this situation, but there's not a whole lot that's correct about me. So I'm going to say, seeing that I have the power
Yes.
to do it,
Yes.
you got to start over. man.
Yeah!
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.